Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and this one's a little bit different but still kind of the same because this right here is the Figure-Rise Standard Asuna from Sword Art Online. So in essence, this is very similar to a lot of the Figure-Rise Standard and high-grade Gundam girls we saw from Gundam Build Divers, except it is a little bit, well, all I can say is, it's definitely not for snap building beginners. However, if you do want one of your own, this video right here would not be possible without those absolutely awesome people over at Hobby Link Japan. So if you do want one of your own, there is a link down there in the description. But here we go. So anyway, there is the Figure-Rise Standard Asuna out of the box, just snapped together with no additional effort whatsoever, and
Hey Pooh, how are you? They took my fucking eyes.
yeah, so that definitely leads into the most jarring aspect of this model kit. It looks, whoa, yeah, seriously, that's nightmare fuel. So yeah, of course the eyes are not colored. That is not the most unusual thing when it comes to these model kits because of course the tech involved in doing something like that would definitely be on the crazy side. So even with the Gundam girls we saw recently that I did rank quite high, like the Divernami, all of those kits do not have their eyes color separated either. It does include stickers like this kit does, and man does this kit include stickers, hold on for that. But yeah, that's not unusual once again. However, with those kits, the eyes were a different segment underneath, so they were a white section that was separate that you could paint very easily because they're removable from the faceplate, but that is not the case right here. So if you are a filthy snap building casual like me, you might be in for a little bit of trouble. This won't be the easiest thing to paint out of the box if you're not that skilled. But, like I said, there are stickers. And man, are there a lot of stickers. This is the most color inaccurate kit I've seen in a long time. Of course, the Asuna design is quite detailed when it comes to the trim on her armor and her cloak, etc. So it does make sense that we end up with this absolutely huge set of stickers, or if you prefer, we do have them as water slide transfers. However, this will be a lot of work, that is the eyes, all the trim, etc. So just know if you are planning to buy this kit, this is a project in a box, not something you can just snap build. However, based on the merits of the kit itself, the details are fantastic. It does look phenomenal. If you can paint and you are planning to paint this, I would say it would look fantastic in the end. I'm not sure how it would turn out with the stickers. Probably not that awesome, honestly. The water slides would probably look a little bit better, but at the end of the day, I really do believe you need to paint this. Anyway, there is that full 360-degree spin, so you can see all the detailing, etc. Maybe notice some things that I won't mention in this review. And all in all, detail-wise, this is very nice. Once again, color-wise, color accuracy-wise, not great out of the box. But detail-wise, it does look quite nice. A lot of this kit is based on the Figure-Rise Divernami and all those sort of Gundam girl style kits that came from that. So this is the second generation of Gundam girls, not those horrendous ones we saw in the past. Big, empty, hollow with big rattly heads. It's not like those. This is actually quite nice. So of course, the comparison that has to be done right here is between this model kit and the Figma. So there they are side by side. As you can see, in general, Figmas are around 1/12 scale. Even though they say they're non-scale, they are essentially 1/12 scale. But this kit right here, it's, well, no scale really in particular. I'll also just slide in a high-grade Gundam there so you can see the general gist of the size of her, so she's large enough. So in general, the biggest selling point I feel about this kit right here is the size compared to other products on the market. Other reasons you may want to go for this particular model over the figure is, well, you may want to customize it, paint it in your custom color, kit bash it with some of the other Bandai kits like Divernami, either of the mobile dolls, or get a little bit more serious and chop off the parts, put them on frame arms girls, etc. That is really the only reason I say go for this. If you want to go for just a small scale figure of Asuna, I'd say go with the Figma if you can get your hands on it. Anyway, there is a side-by-side comparison of both the Bandai model kit beside the Figma, just so you can see, in general, the gist of both of these. These are what you get right out of the box for both products, and instead of me telling you what's good about one and good about the other, you can kind of make up your own mind here. But at the same time, I'm going to answer a question a lot of people ask me over and over again, and that is if I'm going to do more Figma reviews. And the answer is kind of, maybe, but more than likely, not so much. The answer to that, I feel, is the price of these things doesn't cut it anymore. It is ridiculous. For example, that Figma Asuna right there came out at 4,500 yen back in 2015, I think. And a similar product right now, for example, the new Kirito or this here animal girl, who's essentially just like Asuna with just a basic set of accessories, etc. The price range right now tends to range from 6,800 to 8,000 yen, which is pretty much 50 to 75% more expensive than what they used to be, and I feel the boxes feel really on the empty side now. I mean, when I got into Figma back in 2012, 2013, we were getting Figma, like Aegis, coming in at 4,500 yen with tons, and I mean tons of stuff in the box. They just are not worth it anymore in my opinion. The prices for them now are extortionate. Totally not worth it. So if at this point you're wondering if I am going to use these, the answer is not a chance. But I will stick some eyes on because, honestly, she's kinda creepy. And bam! There we go. So it looks so much better when you do something with that face because beforehand, it was looking a little bit creepy. But anyway, as for what I did here is I just used the water slide eyes. I was actually gonna do it the lazy way and just use the stickers right here, but I noticed, look how weird those eyebrows are. They're like so weird. They're the eyebrows with a little bit of surrounding skin color. Those would look so odd. So I just went with the water slides because they come with the eyebrows attached and look so much better. To make the lips pop a little bit more, I did use this right here, which is the Reichland Flesh Shade from Citadel. That is like a Warhammer shade wash, and that's simple and effective. But sadly, as for the rest of these, I do not have time for that today. But anyway, that'll have to do. On to the accessories. Anyway, speaking of the accessories, there is the figurized Asuna with absolutely everything that she comes with. And what we get in here is a stand, which is always a super nice addition. 2 variants of the lambent light, that is one, of course, unsheathed, one sheathed. 2 face plates, that's a total of 3, including the one that is already attached. And 3 alternate hands, that's 2 right, 1 left. And we also had those 2 widespread ones that we already have attached on there. But let's check them all out. So first up in here we have a stand. This is always awesome to have a stand included. Asuna doesn't have one of those kind of figure hole things, so that means we do have a waist grabby part up here. And just in case you're curious, this isn't one of those stands that can be moved around. It actually consists of hexagonal pegs in hexagonal holes. So you actually have to disconnect it to get the angle that you want. For example, like this, it won't really move too much. It does a little bit, but not much. If you want to move it, you have to disconnect and reconnect to re-angle it like that. Anyway, she should pop in there just like so. However, I will mention that does somewhat make it a little bit tedious to get the angle that you want because it only goes at set angles and you're always fidgeting a bit with it, so not quite as awesome as the classic, posable, awesome, perfect Figma base. So as for the face plates we get in here, that's the standard generic one that we've seen already. An inflated cheek sulky face. I'll just slide this in as an example of what it should look like if you put that 3.5 minutes of effort in, which I will not. And finally, the last faceplate is this one right here, which I assume is her best impression of Kayako from The Grudge. Because honestly, that's the only impression I'm getting of this right here. But anywho, that is what that should look like with the stickers, transfers, or some painting. In order to swap these out, you need to just remove the hair. This is very prone to just popping off all the time, this particular piece right here. Not the worst, but it could be a lot better. All that pops off like so. Grab just in front of the ears, and that should pop off. Easy. Man, if you thought she looked freaky before. Anyway, moving on to the weapons, or should I say weapon, all we get in here is the lambent light, and unpainted and undecaled, this looks a little bit on the sad side. It's just a metallic injection silver for the blade there, and the upper section, the hilt there, is in a, well, very odd milky green. Again, there it is in the instructions of what it should look like. But as for decals and stickers, all you get is 18 here and 18 here, which is for the handle. As for all the silver detailing on the hilt, well, you're shit out of luck. You have to paint it or leave it looking like this. Or you know, Figma. So as for the hands we have in here for holding the lambent light, to attach them, you just pull off the hand like this, and annoyingly enough, this little cuff segment is not part of our arm. You need to take this off every time, pop it onto the alternate hand, then pop it on. It's not the worst, but if you lose them, well, that's gonna suck. So we have 2 different hands. We've got that one you can see right there, which of course will hold the lambent light at this sort of angle, and we've got the alternate style, which is this extended one. We only have a right hand of this one right here, and that will hold the lambent light at an extended angle. Here's an example of both. The standard hand is more of a rested looking position, like this here. And there's the alternate hand that holds it in a more extended, about to stab sort of position, like you can see in what's going on right now. Next up in here, we've got a sheathed version of the lambent light, and I will mention that the cheap feckers at Bandai didn't bother to give you another handguard, so I was wondering what was going on here. So you only get the one handguard section, and if you want to display it sheathed like this, you need to remove that handguard and pop it onto this just empty handle section that goes in here. That's a bit on the cheap side. Seriously? Seriously? Anyway, that just pops into that gaping hole in her torso there, just like so. And of course, it can be just left like this, as in the empty scabbard when she has her rapier out, ready for action. Or you can take that handguard off, pop it on this little piece, and stick it in here for when you want poses of it stored away. But anyway, that's it for the accessories. So anyway, now moving on to the build and the articulation, I will tell you that the articulation is not this thing's strongest aspect, but the build is actually quite good. Besides a couple of bits that like to fall off a lot when you're posing it, if you're just going to make it just stand there doing nothing, the build is kind of okay. But I am going to subject this to a rule I like to have when I'm doing the articulation, and that is, if a part falls off, it is staying off. And by the end of it all, then we'll know what's loose and what's not. And while I'm actually talking about the build of this thing, I will mention one creepy aspect about this. It's even lauded on the side of the box that they did this, but they did this kind of double plastic thing where they've got a section of red plastic inside a skin tone plastic for the thighs. And that's weird enough already, but literally if you detach the leg, it looks like a severed limb. I mean, it's got that skin on the outside, red bloody meat in the inside kind of vibe. This is just weird. Like, the face, arms, nothing else has this. Just here. It's bizarre. But anyway, as always, from the head down. So yeah, the build on this is fine until you start trying to move it. Then it gets a bit like a game with bad physics in it, and anything you do causes a chain reaction where other things fall off. So we're gonna see what happens. Anyway, the neck here is double jointed. That means we've got our standard giggity goo, but it's alright. And there we go. Part 1 off. So what we've got here is a ball joint in the neck and a kind of hinge in the upper torso to give us both of those movements. But because of all that hair and the fact that it doesn't really move around too much, the hair that is, you don't really get a whole lot out of this. You can't even really turn the head without parts of the hair falling off. See, with this bit of hair off, you get quite a bit. So if they added some kind of articulation here, it may have helped with that. But I guess you can avoid the shoulders. So let's see, you can get from there. Ooh, we can get from there all the way around to there, so not bad. At the shoulder then, we've got a ball joint in the shoulder itself, a secondary joint then that allows the arm to raise all the way up like this, all the way down like so. Because it's a ball joint, we get forward and back inside of there, so not unlike a Figma joint. And then we've got that full spin all the way around. Not too bad. These parts here are quite prone for popping. We lost a hand. These parts here are quite prone for popping off, and I'm surprised they haven't already. As for rotation, we do have some just above the elbow here, so that rotates around like that. The wrists here are ball joints, so you get what you get from a ball joint. This little cuff can block it a little bit, and of course, that cuff is only just held in with that joint. So in the upper torso, we've got a combination joint. So we've got a ball joint down bottom that doesn't really do a whole lot. And then we've a bit of a hingy mechanism up top. So she kind of does this weird lift up and out here. So of course that would look good from above for a kind of jumping, attacking pose, etc. But from below, yeah, that kind of looks a little odd. But once again, it's for that perspective. Somehow I almost forgot the back of the head. This little kind of tied up bit of hair is on a ball joint. That did just pop off, but I was fiddling with it, so that makes sense. It can rotate side to side, move around a little bit as you would expect from a ball joint. There's a whole array of different moving parts on the hair up here, but this is one of those things where what you get in the end is less than the sum of its parts, and for the most part you don't really get anything out of this. You can kind of split the hair apart like this, bring it together, lift it up and down ever so slightly, but it never really does what you want it to do. Scabbard here is on a ball joint again, so that does what you'd expect from a ball joint. A lot of motion there, but it's not really the prettiest looking thing. Moving down to the waist section, and we've some more unique joints. This here is a kind of ball joint on a stick that only moves to the back. So what we get from this is more movement like this. So she's set up to weirdly bend round, including this joint up here which bends up like so, into this kind of position. What the hell? Like honestly, when it comes to figures and poses and stuff, you want something to the front for dynamic poses, crouches, etc. But to the back like that? This is weird. As you can see, the ball joint in here cannot move towards the front because it is stopped by all this jazz right there. But also when you move it to the back, that frees up some more articulation. Like, honestly, what is this? Seriously, what is this? A mermaid? Like swim, 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 swim. I don't get this at all. Next, onto the sides of her robe, and these all are individual segments. So we've got 1, 2, and 3. We lost a part right there, which was connected on here, so goodbye to that. That would be the same as this here, just it's a bit of an asymmetrical design. But anyway, oh, please. As you can see now that that has fallen off, that is a ball joint. Now that that has fallen off, you can see that is a ball... Oh, for fuck. So now that that has fallen off, you can see that is a ball joint. I'm going to move over to the other side because that's driving me ballistic. But yeah, that can rotate forward and back like so. Move around in a really kind of odd and restricted sort of movement and pops off quite easily. While she's slowly falling apart here, you can see how kind of bizarro the design is of this thing right here. So as for the rear flap of that robe kind of section, this is on a ball joint that allows for that to move up and down ever so slightly like this, as well as rotate like so, kind of adding more to the kind of mermaid motion back here. This front little segment here is a ball joint too, so that can move around when the other flaps are attached. The red skirt segment here has literally been designed like a Gundam skirting armor. I mean literally, it's a front flap like skirting armor, a side flap like skirting armor, and a rear flap like skirt. This thing has fallen apart and getting weirder and weirder looking. Okay, I had to put her back together. Things were just kind of getting a little bit weird. But anyway, on to the legs. Well, that didn't take long. So in general, anyway, the legs are very restricted by that skirt. You're not going to get much more than that right there. This out to the back. There goes that piece again. And as for the splits, we get, well, not a lot. There is a raising dropping mechanism inside the hips here, but that doesn't really give you all that much. The general design of the skirt here does get in the way. And once again, that is where Figma totally wins, because the skirt is made out of a soft material, which does not get in the way. This thing is just super jank. Anyway, as for the bend at the knee, it's just a single joint bend. It's okay, not great. The ankle here is a set of ball joints, so ball joint up top, ball joint down bottom, so it does exactly what you'd expect from that, which isn't really a whole lot, but it's enough. The toes don't bend, and those are some comically tiny feet. Before I started into the articulation, I said that the build was okay. I take it all back. This thing is like a frag grenade, ready to just go off. Shrapnel, shrapnel everywhere. Actually, I just realized when you raise her up and out like this, that does unlock this super ab crunch, which is quite good, but at the same time, it's very, very freaky looking. And also, with that bit of hair gone, she reminds me of another character entirely, and I can't quite put my finger on it. So that right there is it for the review, and honestly, this isn't what I was expecting at all. It's definitely well below my expectation. I expected something more like Divernami or any of the other Gundam girls that we got before. They definitely were much, much better kits than what we saw with all of the Gundam Build Fighters kits that came out before that. I thought this would be in the same vein because it is heavily based on them, but it's just so bizarre. First off, the color separation on this is absolutely diabolical. This is something that would only make a project piece. If you're gonna paint this, use the water slides, or in the worst case scenario, use those stickers, but they'll never look good. So without a doubt, this cannot just be snap built and put on a shelf. But besides that, the accessories are just as disappointing. It's a bunch of blank faceplates, the sword itself is pretty much incomplete, and once again, you're going to have to put the time and effort into those. If that's what you're into, that's awesome, it will make a great project. But once again, if you're expecting this to be as good as the Gundam kits we saw before, that's not happening. But where this thing really fails is when you get into the articulation. There's a whole bunch of overly complex joints that don't really give you anything that makes sense, and at the end of the day, it's just a bit on the frustrating side. So for me, I'm going to give this right here bronze tier. Once again, it would make a decent enough project if you painted it up, but it's not going to do much than just stand there on your shelf. But anyway, if you do want one of your own, there's a link down there in the description. You can get yours at Hobby Link Japan. As always, thank you so much for watching. Consider leaving a like. And as always, I'll see you next time. Once again, all my thanks to each and every one of you guys. Whether you just watch the videos, like the videos, or support me on the channel memberships and Patreon like Craig Jury, Kaiser721, Forged Horizons, Bulwick, Tyler Sanders, Caleb Engelhart, Halo Creator, and Hank Handsome.